713-669-0173. Oh, okay. Never mind, that's Liz's. Okay. Okay, and Charlie, it looks like he's on, but maybe not with audio. Where is Charlie? Right here. I need to make him a co-host. All right, great. And did his... Mute Reagan. Okay, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and mute you so we don't pick up any background noise. Hey, Caitlin, can you text Charlie and let him know that we can't hear him?
Sure thing, will do. I just want to say good luck sharing this, Mike, beforehand.
Thanks. Hey, Stephen, real quick, can you raise your hand just so I can see it pop up?
I can't because I'm a host, but someone else could. Eric, do you want to raise yours?
Yep, I see it. That's good. We're good.
All right.
Can somebody clue me in on how to do that? I am not.
Sure. At the bottom of your screen, there should be a little icon that looks like two people outlines with a number next to it, and it should say participants. If you click on that, a list of people should open up to the right, and at the bottom of that list is a button that says raise hand. If you click that, a little blue hand shows up by your name in that list, and that'll be Mike's cue that you want to speak.
Okay.
And if you want to test it, you can. Okay, Charlie, can you do a mic test?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, thank you.
Hello?
And Charlie, you're a co-host, so you can share your screen if you want to go ahead and do that, since the meeting will start in a minute. I know. Okay, everything appears to be broadcasting, so we are live right now. So if everybody will keep their mics muted unless they're speaking, that would be great to eliminate any background noise. And Charlie, if you want to go ahead and launch your item.
Okay. Do you want me to just start talking?
Yes, I can
I
hear
will go ahead and start.
loud and clear, but Mike probably needs to call the meeting to order and go through roll call and his opening comments.
Gotcha.
All right, Stephen, if you're ready, I'll get started.
Yep, I think we're good to go.
All right, everyone imagine they just heard a gavel. Good evening and welcome to the April 7th, 2020 Council Committee meeting. My name is Mike Kinlan and I'm acting as the Council President. I'm a council member from Ward 2. I will be chairing the meeting tonight. Besides myself, the committee members that are participating remotely are Tammy Thomas, Ward 1, Matt Zimmerman, Ward 1, Eric Jenkins, Ward 2, Lisa Larson-Bonnell, Ward 3, Kurt Knappen, Ward 3, Lindsay Constance, Ward 4, and Jill Chalfie, Ward 4. Before we begin, we'll go over some ground rules in relation to the digital nature of this meeting. I would ask that all the participants mute their microphones until they are recognized for comments, just so we don't have all the background noise. Please utilize the raise hand feature so that I know that you are wishing to speak. Also, it would be best if we saved comments and questions till the end of the presentations. And finally, if you would like to make a motion, please click the raise hand button and wait to be called on so that we can have an accurate record. Next, I'll go over some of the emergency procedures as it is related to the COVID-19 situation. First and foremost, all the governing meetings will comply with the Kansas Open Meeting Act. Nothing has changed there. Also, during this time of a health emergency, the city will attempt to be prudent with the business agenda and defer action when feasible. In relation to citizen attendance and input, the city is taking action to minimize in-person attendance at the City of Shawnee Council Committee meetings. Staff has asked that unless attendance is essential, that residents stay home and listen to the broadcast live from the website cityofshawnee.org. The city will have limited amounts of public seating in the lobby area where the audience can listen to the meeting. However, we will still be using social distancing best practices. For future meetings, staff has asked that if residents have information or comments on an agenda item, that they submit those in writing if possible rather than in person. That would be submitted to the email address governingbody@cityofshawnee.org. And contact information for the individual members of the governing body is available on the city website, cityofshawnee.org. With that being said, there are 3 items on tonight's agenda. Item number 1 is Shawnee Town 1929 Department Highlight. Museum Director Charlie Poplar will provide an overview of the Shawnee Town 1929, and this item will be for informational purposes only. All right, go ahead, Charlie.
Thank you, Councilman Kinlan. Good evening, everyone. I guess we are all pioneers tonight, trying out this new technology in order to meet virtually. It had been our hope, of course, before the pandemic, to have everyone out to the museum, to the site, to show you not only our progress, but kind of talk through what our mission is and what our aim is out there. So what we have done is that I'm going to walk you through a brand new feature that we have developed for the general public. And this is kind of this is called the storyboard. And it's kind of between our website, which is more traditional, made for teachers and made for the general public, and there's a lot of historical information on that, about the history of Shawnee. It's kind of a cross between that and our social media, so our Facebook page, that kind of thing, which is more, our social media we use to be more in the moment. Here's what's going on today, here's what's going on in the next week, here's our events, here's what you can do. So this is kind of a progress report that's a living, breathing document that goes back, we're going to go back 54 years tonight, but quickly, I might add. But this is really to show our progress and to show our visitor trends, where we've been and certainly where Shawneetown fed content, but they put it together and they made it look really nice. So their work is what you're seeing tonight. So that first image that I show you is the Murphy service station. This was one of the buildings we were going to go through tonight, which is brand new. We have not opened it to the public yet. The city council was going to be the first group to go through this building, but instead we're going to have to just imagine by looking at photographs tonight. So I just wanted to take you through the history of, for many years it was called Old Shawneetown, and it was created in 1966 with a grassroots effort of local concerned citizens, all people from Shawnee, that got together to try and save a building that is the first, a lot of times when things are worth doing, you fail the first attempt or two, and this museum is no different. The concerned citizens tried to save the old wagon master's house, which was a large stone structure down on Shawnee Mission Parkway and Union Road. So
Hey, Charlie?
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we can't see the storyboard link. We just see your email with the links.
Okay. I've got the link on my desktop from Heath. Let me go back and just see. There's my email. I pulled it up. So, are you seeing it now?
No, I think you need, when you click on share screen, you need to share your desktop.
Okay. Let me go back to that. Okay, I'm trying to get back to the main Zoom screen and we'll do that. So let me just try and do that here. Okay, I'm back. I apologize for this, folks.
Hey, Charlie, do you want me to see if I can get it to come up real quick? Looks like you're getting there. Yep, click on that. The building of Shawneetown, I think. No, I'm sorry, it's that one right there. You're pointing to it. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was on before. I'm not sure why it didn't share.
Okay, can everybody see that?
See it?
I didn't hear him.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. I'm not sure what I did. All right. So I took you through the first building that was not saved, the wagon master's house, but we were able to save on our second try this building right here. And this was the stone building that was for many years known as the first territorial jail in Kansas. And it was sitting where the Vitacraft Corporation was going to be expanding their factory right there behind City Hall. And this building, you could join the Marshal's posse, and you could, this concerned group, they put their money where their mouth was, and they contributed money to relocate this building to Blue Jacket Park, which was a county park at the time. And so they removed the stones individually, stone by stone, moved it to Blue Jacket Park, which is now Shawneetown, and then they had a grand opening in July of 1966. So these were all the movers and shakers of the time that made this happen. And this was the genesis of the museum. So they opened that building, and then along the west block, they constructed 4 other buildings. Now we're going to move quickly through time here. This is the building in its original location where Vitacraft went. So this is a photo from 1964. And then I wanted to share this with you. Everybody knows the name Charles Gosling, our famous artist here in town, and he drew this rendering of what Old Shawnee Town was going to look like, probably by the year 2020. And it was a magnificent plan, but it really didn't, something like this didn't really have any funding. So what the citizens did that first year of 1967, they started to build the West Block, which is the block to the right in this photo. This particular photo is from 1976, so 10 years on. Our firefighter climbed up the top of the ladder, the hook and ladder truck, and took a snapshot of what Shawnee Town looked like in the mid-70s. You can see the West Block has been built. These were all new buildings that were fabricated using the best practices of the time. You can see over on the far left, that far-off house, that is the Hart Home that came from Corvera Road in 75th Street, and that had just been moved on the site. That is now the house where we interpret the farmstead over by where the pool used to be. So I'll take you through that. The gazebo is still there. The stone building is still there, but everything else has changed. You can see there is no town hall. So this is looking from West 57th Street out towards Johnson Drive. So the strategic plan that we came up with, I've gone through 35 years, so I'd take us up to 1998. The group that really started Old Shawnee Town, they did what they wanted, and that is they got young people thinking about history. And, history was just this kind of dusty, dry topic that, unless you're at a historic site where you see it where it really happened, it doesn't really make much sense a lot of times for a lot of us. So they created this site where school kids could come, where they would have Old Shawnee days, they would have large special events, and people could connect with their past. What they focused on in that early museum was really the settlement period through the 1880s. And they brought in a few original buildings, but they also made a lot of replica buildings. And those replica buildings really started to age over time. Many of them were built on telephone pole foundations, and they started to rot. So by the late 90s, the buildings were needing a lot of attention, and then the group that built Shawnee Town, they were starting to get older, and that group was really looking to the city to see if the museum could survive into the 21st century. So the city bought the museum for $1, and it became a city property. So we are part of the Parks and Recreation Department. The Shawnee Historical Society, which was the grassroots group that started the site, in 2006 they morphed into the Friends of Shawnee Town, and they are our advocate group. They're a funding group. They do a lot of fundraisers and special events. We work very closely with them, and they put on events like the car show, the Bloody Mary kickoff, which is just before Old Shawnee days. A lot of different events for us that raise money. So when the city took over, the first thing they charged the planners with was coming up with a strategic plan, because you've got to have a plan in order to be successful. So we took a look around at a lot of and I say we, I wasn't here yet, but the concern was the same. We wanted the site to be a modern museum that served a broad, diverse audience that brought a lot of people into the city, not just Shawnee people. Of course, they were our primary focus, our main focus, but we wanted to bring people in from all over the metro and also from out of state. So in that strategic plan, they looked at all the different museums in the Kansas City metro area. What were they doing well? And we certainly didn't want to duplicate that. What we found out was there's a lot of Civil War history covered in Kansas City. World War I's covered, Steamboat Arabia covers that settlement period really well. But we wanted to do something that we could bring people in that would serve as kind of a niche for us. So the thing that the committee came up with, and the committee was made up of, there were city council folks on there, educators, teachers, person that wanted to be on the committee could be. And they came up with the 1920s, interpreting that decade, because that was the decade of the Great Depression. That was the decade of jazz and prohibition. There was a lot of excitement going on nationally. But locally, we could come up with a very authentic historic site because we had a lot of original records from that time period. The local Johnson County paper had a column that they would write on Shawnee every week, the comings and goings, and who was doing what buildings were going up, what businesses were popping up, what was the general temperature of that community. And here, I just got some bullet points on what the committee, why they chose the 1920s to interpret. Shawnee's incorporated in the 20s. The Mission Theater opens. We have all these fabulous topics to talk about, which we do through various mediums: prohibition, jazz, sports, radio. It all comes to fruition in the 20s, and of course the Great Depression and all of that entails. So we are focused with interpreting the lives of those of Shawnee, really in two different sectors: the farmstead, which I have an artist rendering of that, which when we built it, it looks almost exactly like this rendering. So the agricultural side of the community, which was the backbone of the economy, and then all of the town buildings, well, significant town businesses that supported that agricultural community. So the different shops that catered to farmers. One thing we did that we found out through our research when we were ramping up, and before we drove one nail, before we erected one stud to make these buildings, we did years of research because we wanted to get it right. We did a lot of in-house research, and we hired some of the research out. And we found out that Shawnee really was instrumental in feeding the entire Midwest. So a farmer that was growing spinach or tomatoes in his Belgian American garden in Shawnee was potentially selling that to a wholesale supplier grocer in Denver or St. Paul, Minnesota, or Chicago, Illinois. So people were coming here because of our long growing season, and they were buying in bulk from the farmers at the city market who were bringing their produce from their farms in Shawnee. So it's the truck farm economy that is really the linchpin of what we talk about, and that feeding of the Midwestern part of America. But to get there, we had a lot of work to do because it was not already just a 1980s museum. That we didn't have to just turn the key. We had to actually build it. So there was a lot of buildings that were in disrepair by the early 2000s. So I want to show a picture of this, and I want to ask Stephen, can you see all of these graphics? Or I see a little screen up on my right with everyone's faces. Should I minimize that? Can you see the map clearly?
Yes.
You can, okay. Okay, then the screen that little box must just be on mine. Okay, so here's what the grounds look like in 2005 before any construction began. The east pool, the man-made creek that runs through the property, that was all there. The town consisted of 20 buildings. Many of them were in pretty poor shape. Not all, but many of those were replicas as well, and not original buildings. So we're going to move quickly through time again. We're going to go through 5 years to 2010. You can see the east pool has been filled in. That is the location of where the farmstead was going to be. And so not just only the farmhouse, but all the appropriate outbuildings that you would find on a Shawnee farm in the 1920s that supported a truck farming operation. So there was a Boy Scout kid that was removed, and there was a sod house that was in pretty poor repair that was taken out as well. Now we're ready to start building. The farmstead in 2011, you can see that popped up. So from 2011 to 2015, we had our first big building boom. And we moved the Hart home from the other side of the museum campus up to where the old pool was. We had some other buildings that were moved from here in Shawnee that Bender Barn and then the Bender Smokehouse. Those were relocated. And then let's see, blacksmith shop was taken down. And over in that area of the site, we built a barber shop and the typewriter shop over in that area. And you can see the different numbers. I'm not sure if you can see them very well, but numbers 2 and 3, that's where the Chevy dealership went just last year. Number 4 is where we have the barber shop, the typewriter repair shop. Number 5 is where we have the new undertaker shop and the grocery store. And I want to pause right there and talk about the undertaker shop. G-name is a name that's synonymous with Shawnee history. And Gene collected undertaking artifacts that really spanned about 100 years. And he billed all of his artifacts from his collection to us. And we have many of those artifacts on exhibit right now in our undertaker shop, and many in our collection storage. And if you go onto our website, you can take a virtual tour through 100 years of undertaking equipment. So it really is a thing. There's a large interest, collector groups and interest groups to kind of focus on that. So that's yet another niche, I guess, for us. So that's what it looked like in 2011 to 15. There's a picture of the Hart Home being relocated into the position there. When it was moved to the site in 1976, there was a kitchen addition, which was original to the building, that as soon as they turned the corner from Johnson Drive onto Cody, that kitchen frame addition fell off. And they decided to just go ahead and keep it off. I believe they burned it right there in the middle of the street. The volunteer firefighters did. And when they relocated it to Shawnee Town, they decided to just erect it without that kitchen. But when we moved it to the farm, food and food history tells you a lot about a society, what they're growing, what they're cooking, what they're eating. And so the food history program, we knew that was going to be a big part of our living history program. So we reconstructed that kitchen onto the back. Some more photos. Some very talented volunteer photographers who take all kinds of photos. There's one with us. This is Brian Boland's photo right here in the middle. You can see the red barn there. And that's where the crops were processed before they were taken to market. That was the most modern building on the farm. It was the only one that had running water because it was hooked right up to the well. And another reason why we chose to show farm versus city is because everybody out in the outlying areas outside of Shawnee proper, they had no electricity and they had no running water, even as late as 1931. So, but when visitors go through our town buildings, they can flick on the light switch, turn the lights on, there's running water. So when we build the next house in Shawnee Town, which will be Doc Sullivan's house, that will have all the modern amenities that you would have had in 1929 in town. So there's the furniture, or the undertaking shop. This was an original building in Shawnee. We don't know a whole lot about it, but we know Dr. B.E. Bassler was the undertaker. He practiced undertaking for a number of years in Shawnee. And this occupation was selected because it was one of those that has a few toes in the 19th century, a full leg into the 20th century. And you see that transition. And we show a lot of different businesses that were on the cusp of change or were rapidly changing in the 1920s. The 20s was the biggest decade for change, really until we get to World War II. So an undertaker in the 19th century would have been a guy that made caskets. He was a cabinet maker. He also went in, you could pull your teeth if you had a bad tooth, and he would also embalm bodies and prepare them for the funeral. And then the funerals were always either in the family home or in a church, of course. By the 1920s, and what we show at our modern shop is it's kind of the model used today, in that they not only provide funeral services, embalming of the bodies, but they also, you can have your service there, you can pick out your casket there, which is not made in that shop. That's something that would have been ordered and brought in by rail. So it's a very modern type model that they were using in the 1920s. And that's very typical. There's a viewing room right there, that color photograph. And you can get a little bit of a peek into the prep room where the bodies are prepared. There's the prep room right there. So people were they knew about germs, they knew about cleanliness, and they were using a lot of modern practices that we still use today in the 1920s that even 10 years before that were not in use. Modern grocery store. We go to Hy-Vee, we go to Price Chopper, we go to all these modern stores today that advertising knocks your head as soon as you walk in the front door. Well, that era of change really starts in the 1920s, the big advertising era. So, but instead in the 1920s, you can go into a store here, which the original building, by the way, is still on Johnson Drive. For many years, it was known as Spectrum Carpets, and that's the building that we copied. So you can go in and you can give your list to the clerk, and that clerk would go around and grab all the canned goods and whatever was on your list. If you wanted to, you could phone in your order. If you had the means to make a phone call, there was a phone there in the storeroom, and you could buy on credit if you were a farmer. You did have to pay up and settle your credit by the end of the month, but they could deliver your food to your door as well. Something that we're seeing a little bit more of these last 3 weeks. So getting into 2017, just the last couple of years, this is what it looks like. This map right here. Let's see. The Monticello cabin was brought to the site. It's a log cabin that was brought to the site in the mid-70s. We gave the Monticello Historical Society we work with off and on. I've given a lot of programs for them to come out and help us with our historical hauntings program. We can have a good partnership. We gave a lot of the cabin back to them. We saved part of the cabin for our visitor center when we do an exhibit on the history of the museum and the history of Shawnee. So we will be reusing adaptively those cabin elements in our own exhibit. So 2019, that's our most modern, our recent improvements. The O.W. Fisher Chevrolet dealership, that is number one. I'll show you some close-ups. There's a close-up of the Chevy dealership. And the Northview Service Station, which was also the fire department back in 1929. The volunteer fire department, they kept their steam engine, their fire engine, in the bay of Murphy's service station. So when a call would go out, you had to live nearby so that you could hear the bell, and you had 5 minutes to get there, and then you would head out on the call. So the creek that ran through the village was sealed up. There are both of those new buildings, and those are the two that we were going to open for you tonight. So just take.
Okay. Charlie, did we lose you?
Losing audio.
Up arrow, what's the up arrow? That means you cut waste.
Charlie, we can't hear you anymore. Did we lose you? I don't know what that means. Oh, that means he's sharing his screen, yeah. Yeah. But she can't move the screen.
You can take it back.
But if Kate...
Stephen, I just got a text from Charlie saying that his Wi-Fi shut down. So I think either we can continue or we can maybe hold it for questions.
Sorry, I was on mute. Councilmember Kenley, what would you prefer to do? Do you want to take questions, or do you want us to move on to the next item and see?
Yeah, let's go ahead and have the council discussion on this.
Okay.
And if we get Charlie back, maybe you can finish the rest of that presentation. So is there any discussion from the council? If you'd like to be recognized, click the raised hand button. Okay, yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Thank you, Michael. It's too bad that Charlie didn't get to finish this up, but he's, separately, I had opened up the file and was looking through the overall attendance at Shawnee Town over the years. As you scroll down through Charlie's attachment that went out to everybody, I'm just really impressed with the increase in attendance between just the last 3 or 4 years, and a lot of programs for schools. It just speaks very highly to how important this museum has become.
I could, well, I mean, I can kick him off.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, Stephen, you're not muted.
Sorry, I am now.
Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, so, and that was really just the long and short of my comment. What started as a grassroots program has just really grown to become one of the identifying elements of Shawnee. I've attended numerous events there over the years. Of course, the annual barbecue that we have there, the Taste of Shawnee event, the Hot Rod and Custom Car Show. The list goes on and on and on. And finally, I think one of the fun things for me at a personal level, we've hosted several exchange students over the years, and when their families come to visit the kids here in Shawnee, one of the stops that we inevitably end up with is a visit through Shawnee Town. And we just walk their families through what this area was like in 1929 and spin the story for them. And it's fun to watch their face and field their questions. So, my thanks to Charlie and to everybody on the Shawnee Town Committee. It's just a commendable job, and I'm really looking forward to watching that area develop and bring ever more people into the Shawnee area, which of course is going to be all the more important as we build out the New Now corridor and attract more people to this general area. So, Charlie, I don't know if you can hear me, but good presentation right up to the point that your internet failed. They didn't have this problem in 1929. I'm off, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. I see Lisa's hand. Go ahead.
Hi. To piggyback off of what Matt said, I think that Shawnee Town is really a jewel, an understated jewel of the city of Shawnee, and quite frankly, it's something that has been somewhat neglected for a long time, and I'm so excited about the new vision that they have for Shawnee Town. I do think that it's something that is very cohesive. I can see it, and I can see it being an attraction. It is already an attraction. It is bringing 120,000 people into Shawnee every year. That's bringing people into our downtown businesses. That is bringing people directly into Shawnee Town as well. But I think it's time for us to really come together, stand behind Shawnee Town along with our downtown redevelopment, and let's see this through. Let's make this happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Lindsay, go ahead.
I just had two questions. The first is just, what is a mission-based program? Sorry, I wasn't familiar with that term. It's on the bottom chart, the green graph. And then the second question is if Charlie or others have an idea of what we can attribute the increased attendance to. Seems like a pretty big jump, and I'm just wondering if they know why, so we can continue doing more of that.
Lindsay, it's Caitlin. I'm going to do my best to answer your questions until Charlie hops back on. He would obviously do better. Oh, here. Let me, hopefully you can see me maybe. As far as the attendance, I would strongly say just the city's increase in participation for programming and the involvement that we put into these new facilities, and just the involvement that we bring the schools into the community, the Shawnee Town community specifically. Hundreds of classes go through every year with the programming. They do really cool activities for the really young kiddos all the way up through middle school and high school. So obviously bringing those kids in, and then obviously the other programs that we brought to Shawnee too. So even though like the car show or Old Shawnee Days aren't necessarily Shawnee Town programs, they're held at the grounds. And the facilities are occasionally open during those times as well, so people are able to engage with the facilities at that time. That is the visitors, the best answer I can give for visitors. And I'm sorry, what was your other question?
What is the mission programming? It was the green graph at the bottom. Just.
Sorry, I don't have that on my computer.
Mission-based programs by year.
I believe those are the programs that we provide on our farmstead, whether those be growing vegetables or vegetable farming or any of those other programs that they do kind of based in the 1920s era. We have interpreters that are part-time staff that help with those programs. So I believe it's the programs that they put on for the schools. I believe that that's true, but, don't hold me 100% to that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Eric?
Okay, should be is working now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up just something very quick, and that is that we discussed this, Shawnee Town at our retreat, and when we discussed the vision for Shawnee, and we talked about those things we have within Shawnee, which have room for enrichment and growth, and two of the major topics was Shawnee Town, and the other one our sports facilities in the community. So I think we're all on board with that, and this is something we were hoping to improve considerably in the future and continue to make it a destination spot for the metropolitan area, maybe outside the metro. That was all I had to say.
Okay, thank you, Eric. And then I see Kurt's hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Sure. So just want to thank Charlie for the thoughtful presentation. I will say I was really disappointed that we weren't able to take our field trip because this is an area that, quite frankly, I haven't spent a lot of time, and I know it's a really unique part of Shawnee. And I've certainly been there, but I was looking forward to the tour and learning a lot more about it. So I guess I can do it on my own time, but I still think it would be worthwhile for us to do as a council. That said, I did have a couple of questions or parts that I didn't really see that I'm curious about learning more about in the future, specifically the financials of it. And I suppose I can dig into the annual budget, but being new, I've not gone through the budget process. So I guess I was hoping to see a little bit more of that as well in terms of an overview, and then also the number of employees that we've got on there full-time. I know there's several. Just to get an overview of the attendance, which was included, and the financials, employees, sort of that end of it, in addition to just the uniqueness of it in the history.
Yeah, and I know Charlie had really good numbers for you, and I can talk in generalities. I don't want to give numbers specifically. But as far as where the funding comes from, a lot of it comes from that Friends of Shawnee Town group, which is the nonprofit really that's, it's not city-based. It's really just members of the community really supporting Shawnee Town and its kind of operations and artifacts. But the city does fund four full-time employees at the museum and a number of part-time, and I don't even want to guess to the number of part-time just because I honestly just don't know without having that information in front of me. But those part-time employees are for town hall, they're for those interpreters that I was discussing, the field trips. But as far as the financials go, the Friends of Shawnee Town financially supports the programs and the artifacts of everything you see at the museum. So that is completely separate from the city and funded by that group.
Okay. Any idea how much the city then kicks in, spends on what the employees, the bonds or mortgage or whatever to pay the monthly or?
Yeah, we can definitely get into that. I don't want to give you a number right this second without it being absolutely correct. So I can dig into that for you.
No, that's fair. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but thank you.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Yeah, and I'd be kind of curious to see some of that as well. I don't see any other hands up from any of the council members or the committee members. Is Charlie back? Is he able to finish the presentation? I see his name on our list.
Yeah, he was doing something on his screen, but I don't think his audio is working.
I think he's using one of those 1929 laptops.
Thank you, Matt. All right, well, if we don't think we're going to finish that, I'll ask if there's any comment from the public there at the meeting. Stephen, can you verify if anyone's there and wants to speak?
No one wants to speak.
Okay. With that being said, this item is for informational purposes only and there's no action necessary. So item number 2 is to consider health, dental, vision, life insurance for plan year 2020/21. The city's benefit plan year for health, dental, vision, and life insurance runs from July 1st to June 30th. Staff has worked with the Hayes Company of Kansas City, the city's benefits consultant for the 2020/21 plan year. Steve Brown from the Hayes Company will make a brief presentation. Go ahead, Reggie.
Mike? Mike, just a quick question.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask Stephen if he give us just a rundown on how many people did show up at the meeting from the public, if there is any, or?
Yeah, Stephen, you want to comment on how many people are in attendance?
One person.
One person.
One person.
Thank you.
All right, Reggie, are you there?
I'm here. Stephen, should I just hit the share screen button to share my presentation?
Yeah, go ahead and try that.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
No.
I still have the Shawnee Town display.
Yeah, it's still on Charlie's.
How about now?
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks.
I still don't see it.
Yeah, negative on my side.
I don't see it either.
I had to go up to the top where it said view options and then scroll down from Charlie's to Reggie's screen. I don't know if that helps anybody.
Shall I go ahead and get going, Mike? Or I don't see different people's names under view options.
Do you see shared screens and then two names listed by any chance?
I don't. I see zoom ratio, hide video panel, exit full screen, and side-by-side mode.
Even it worked for me when I did that. If I went to view options share screen, I could scroll down to it as well.
All right. How about everyone that can see Reggie's screen, give me the hands up. Lisa, Jill, Caitlin, me. So it's like about 4 of us can see it.
I can see it. This is Liz. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
This is no one, I can see it.
This is Tammy, I cannot.
Oh, that's what you're doing again.
I was just checking to see who could see Reggie's screen.
No, I know, but how did you pull it up again?
What worked for me was at the top of the Zoom window, there was a little drop-down called View Options, and it had things like scale, 50%, 100%. And then underneath that, it had shared screen, and there were 2 options, Charlie and Reggie Brown.
Yeah, shared screen is not one of my options. But.
You need to.
Yeah, this is Steven, and I don't have that option either, and I don't know if when Charlie's internet went bonkers, if it messed up our meeting, because I don't have, I'm not able to remove him or stop his screen sharing. So Caitlin, are you able to do that as a co-host?
Yeah, I've been trying. I can see it on my iPad, but on my computer, it's still screen, and I've been trying to stop his sharing, and I have not been successful. Maybe I can enter my screen and potentially kick him off?
Yes.
All right, now does everyone see my screen?
No.
Green screen? Dang it.
Should we all sign off and sign back on?
Caitlin, I now have it. I just wanted to let you know, I clicked where you guys said before, view options up at the very top in the bar, and then went down to Caitlin. Oh, wait.
Well, I unshared it. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Well, it worked for a second, so.
Okay, I reshared my. Does that drop-down option work? Oh.
Sorry, I was messing around with it too and shared my screen. I don't know if anyone can see that or not.
Reggie's screen.
I'm looking at the view options and I do the drop down and all I see is zoom ratio, hide video panel, exit full screen, and side-by-side mode.
Same here.
Yep.
You know,
I'm on my phone, so mine it looks a little bit different, but I'm able to see it, and I'm just scrolling through my screens that show all of the people, and then when I get to the beginning, it's the shared screen. I don't know if that helps anybody.
I'm going to log off and log back on.
Should we hide his screen or something, exit full screen?
I mean, I've got his presentation pulled up on another device if he wants to just try and walk through it. We do have the slide.
Yeah, I printed the thing, so I've got it.
Yeah, this was the presentation that was in the agenda packet, so I don't know if folks have a different way to view it potentially or not.
I'll look at it on my tablet, and I'll listen to you guys on my home computer.
Okay. So if Reggie, you can just be kind of clear about exactly what slide and things you're referencing, that'd be helpful.
Okay. Bear with me 1 second, I lost it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get going if that's okay.
Yep.
All right. So, thanks everyone. So I'll start I'm on page 2 of the presentation. It's, sorry, I got too many things going on here. So it's the medical loss ratio report, page 2 again. So within this analysis here, really, just long story short, this was a fairly tough renewal, and a lot of that really boiled down to, I guess, really the loss ratio and the increase in claims, specifically over the last 4 or 5 months. So there's been quite a few large claims that have impacted the loss ratio in a negative way. So on page 2 here, you'll note there's a solid red line that kind of goes around, forms a rectangle around the bottom half of the page there. It's in column L of the presentation, or of the page, excuse me. You'll see there rows 16, 20, 24, and 28. That's just a year-over-year percent increase in cost on a per employee per month basis. So row 16 there, that is basically stating that claims for the 2019-20 plan year are up about 14.7% from last year. If you go to row 15, again in column L, you'll see the claims on a per employee per month basis are $1,152. Compare that to last year of just over $1,000, and that's that 14-15% increase that I'm referencing. You'll note that last year you had about a 2.5 or 2.2% premium decrease. So while that was very good, I think overall in terms from a cost perspective in that particular year, or for this particular year, it's a fully insured plan. You're paying the premiums as they're fixed over the course of the 12-month policy period, but claims have gone up simultaneously over that time. So the end result there is, again, in row 13, column N, you'll see that the loss ratio year-to-date is 95.6%. That's on a net basis. That's before proving out for large claims or forgiving for individual large claims. Apologize just a second, I lost the screen. Bear with me 1 second. So that is a fairly high number, particularly when you compare that back to, again, row 17, column N, where last year's loss ratio was about 81.5%, and then the row 21, it was 76.3% prior year. So as a result of the high loss ratio, and then ongoing large claims, we were faced with a pretty difficult renewal at the outset. So on page 3, I'm showing what the initial Cigna renewal was, and a couple of factors were really at play here. First of all, they were given or initially proposing a 48.5% increase, which would amounted to about a $2.17 million annual increase year over year. There were two things, like I said, at play there. Number one, the loss ratio, so that the fact that claims over the last, say, 6, 7, 8 months were higher than what they had anticipated. And then secondly, some of the claims that are impacting the loss ratio as of right now are projected to continue into the future. And anytime there's known claimants like that, those are accounted for, generally speaking, when the carriers are looking to underwrite the plans for the upcoming plan year. So as a result, on page 4, we did go to RFP. We submitted the RFP request out to Cigna, obviously the incumbent, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City, Aetna, Humana, and United Healthcare. United Healthcare declined to quote. They felt their rates were uncompetitive.
And so we ended up really with 3 proposals from the marketplace, and then Cigna came off their original increase. Page 5 are really the overall results from the marketing effort. So you'll note there's quite a bit going on this slide. I'll try to direct you to a couple of points here. So first of all, Cigna, this will be from a negotiation standpoint, through the RFP process. That would be in column C is their overall final quote. They came off that original 48.5% increase down to 17.8%. They made quite a concession there, obviously, and you'll see there from the difference in the projected annual premium increase of about $2.1 million to just under $800,000. The market responded favorably, especially when considering the original renewal from Cigna. All of both, Humana, Aetna, and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City, their original quotes and the rates were all hovering right around between, say, 14.5% and 16.8% over current. Blue Cross, however, came in with what they're calling basically a half-month premium holiday. So the rates will be calculated at about 16.3% over current, but the half-month premium holiday amounts to about a $217,000 premium savings for the city. The net result after subtracting out the $217,000 half-month premium holiday for Blue Cross Blue Shield is about an 11.4% overall premium increase. So you'll note, again, in row 18 and 18 and 18, I guess the 18 and 19, excuse me there, you'll see that the percentage increases, and then the row below that there is the annual increases in terms of premium on a year-over-year basis. The Blue Cross Blue Shield proposal, again, they're at 11.4%, or what amounts to about $513,000 over year-over-year premium increase. The bottom part of this slide here, we're talking about the HSA contribution. So as you know, today the city offers a qualified high deductible plan, and with that, the premiums that you charge the employees from a payroll deduction standpoint, they do not differ from the PPO plan. However, as part of the offering for the HSA or the qualified high deductible plan comes that HSA plan or HSA account, if you will. And with that, the city offers contributions or seed money toward those accounts. And so that's really an incentive, if you will, to join that plan design. The city offers $1,000 for employee-only coverage and then $2,000 for employee plus one coverage and $2,800 as seed money on an annual basis for family coverage. So when we factor that into the overall cost, but we're not projecting, obviously, that the HSA contribution or seed goes up. The overall premium plus HSA contribution is running about 11.2% in the Blue Cross Blue Shield scenario. Again, that's column D and kind of the darker shaded green at the very 2 bottom rows of the page. Jumping ahead to page 6. So I should have noted earlier, maybe I will go back to slide 5 just for a second. I want to point out that all of the plan designs that are in place today, so this will be the top half of this slide on page 5 here, rows 1 through 7. The plan design features that we have received from each of the bidders as well as Cigna essentially propose no changes to the overall structure of the plan. So the deductibles, the co-insurance that the employees pay after the deductible is met, and then the overall out-of-pocket maximum or liability would stay the same with each one of these options. There is one minor change on the HSA plan, again, because that is a qualified plan and certain deductible thresholds and whatnot are set by the IRS. That particular plan, the deductible will go up, the individual deductible will go up from $2,700 to $2,800. But again, that's a minor plan change that is more so mandated from an IRS perspective. But beyond that, no real plan design changes with any of these options. Well, we are proposing some differences and some changes on a go-forward basis. So we noted the Blue Cross Blue Shield rate and overall premium structure as being the most competitive. So if we plug in a comparison on a year-over-year basis between Cigna, what you have currently, and then the Blue Cross Blue Shield offering on a go-forward basis, again, I mentioned earlier the overall premium increase is about 11%. But when we break that down between what the employees pay and what the city contributes, obviously there's a cost sharing component there from the employees. So this is a bit of a busy slide, but I'll try to walk through this as best I can. I'm going to hone you in on row 4. So today, the employees pay if they complete their wellness initiatives, and a large percentage of them are able to go through and complete wellness actions to get the wellness credits and therefore pay the reduced premium. Today, that premium, if you are a single individual, is $24 a month. If you're an employee plus one, you pay $176 a month, and if you elect family coverage, you pay $246 a month. You'll note in row 5 what that net premium percentage is as a percent of the overall premium. So if the employees are paying $24 a month and the overall premium is $580, that is about a 4.1% cost share is what the employees are picking up overall on a monthly basis. You'll see if you go a column over there, the employee plus one, the full premium is $1,225 per month. The employees are paying $176 a month. That's a 14.4% cost share. And then family, they pay $246 a month. That's 14.5%, excuse me, of the overall premium, which is $1,691. Font's a little small here. If we go over to the green area, shaded area, continuing with row 4 and 5 there, you'll see what we're proposing as the new premiums on a wellness basis, or after wellness completion basis, 2020-21. So this would be under the Blue Cross Blue Shield scenario from a premium standpoint. So the single premium goes to $680, full premium, that's row 3. Row 4, then we're proposing a $48 net employee contribution rate. That's a $24 increase year over year per month for single coverage. That amounts to 7.1% of the total premium. So that's looking at basically, again, the total premium of the $680 in row 3, column D. The row 4 is the $48 is what the employees would pay after meeting the wellness requirements. That's row 5, column D, and then row 4, column D, and then row 5, column D. That's the percent of that premium at 7.1%. So you see that the overall percentage share that the employees would have at that point would be going up from 4.1% today to 7.1% on a go-forward basis. If we slide over a column, so columns E and F staying in rows 4 and 5, then you'll see what the new proposed rates are for employee plus one and family coverage respectively. So employee plus one is going from $176 a month to $214. The percentage share there is going basically from 14.4% to 15%. And then family is going from $246 a month to $290 a month. That's a $50 a month increase. $296 a month. That's again a cost share going from 14.5% to 15.1%. The same dollar figures were just like we do today. Again, I stated earlier that on the HSA plan, or the qualified high deductible plan, which is reflected in rows 13 through 23. Historically, we've had the same rate. So you can have the option to elect the PPO plan, or you can have the option to elect the HSA plan. And in either scenario, you're going to pay the same monthly premium. Obviously, the high deductible plan comes with a higher deductible, and in addition to that, though, part of the city's contribution is the seed money that I spoke about earlier, the $1,000, for example, if you elect a single coverage. So that's where there's obviously premium savings in the HSA, but instead of giving back, if you will, and making that a competitive offer, an attractive offer, that's where that seed money comes into place for the employees. So the rates we're proposing go up just like the PPO plan rates do for 2020-21. I'm going to take you to the bottom of slide 6. So just in terms of an overall cost sharing percentage, you'll see that today, the very bottom row, after accounting for all the various discussion points above in terms of various percentage split, that sort of thing, today the net contribution split is that the employees pay about 12.9% of the premium, and the city contributes about 87.1%. If we implement these new changes that I spoke about above in terms of premium, the overall cost share would go from the employees paying 12.9% today to 14.4%. The employees' overall premium is actually going up about 24% as a result of the changes that I spoke about above. whereas the net premium that the city would take on, again, after employee contributions is going up about 9.2%. So that is the medical. I'll skip ahead to the dental and vision, some of the ancillary lines. So on page 8, starting with the dental renewal, we were able to secure a rate pass for 2020-21, so no rate increases with this particular plan. There are some enhancements, however, that are also included, though. There's a Right Start for Kids program, so essentially all services for children under the age of 12 will be covered at 100% going forward when using a network dentist. So that's a really nice feature. And then in addition to that, effective July 1st, the employees and members will have availability of unlimited cleanings on a go-forward basis as well. So we are proposing no changes to the rates. Both obviously the premium is not increasing, and therefore we're not proposing increases to the contribution rate as well. You'll see in the bottom right-hand corner what those rates are today: $2 for employee-only coverage, $38 for employees plus one, and $90 for family coverage. And that's been the strategy historically. Plan design, as I said, stays the same in terms of deductibles, plan year maximums, those sort of things, coverage levels. It's just that those enhancements will go into effect that I spoke about for 7/1. Next slide, page 9, is the vision renewal. Again, a rate pass on this coverage with no changes to plan design. This is a voluntary plan, so the employees do pay 100% of the premium. So again, no impact there in terms of as far as the city is concerned, and the employees will not have a cost increase for this plan either. And then next, page 9, the basic life AD&D renewal on short-term disability. This coverage is with Cigna today, and although we were recommending a change from Cigna on the medical, we are recommending that you stay put with Cigna for the basic life and AD&D renewal. There will be a rate pass and a rate guarantee in place for another 2 years or 24 months, effective 7/1/2020. So no increase here on this line of coverage, or the short-term disability as well. That was actually under rate guarantee for the next 12 months. And Cigna has agreed to extend that through July 2022. So again, the ancillary lines of coverage, the dental, the vision, and life and short-term disability, no changes from a rate perspective, and some minor enhancements on the dental plan. Next is the FSA and HSA. Really no changes here at all in terms of administrators or cost or anything of that nature. There are some minor increases in terms of what the employees are able to contribute. So the flexible spending amount is going up. The employees today can contribute up to $2,700 a year towards that account. They can now contribute to $2,750. And that's an IRS mandated fee for there. We don't really have any control over that, but just wanted to note that. And then the same thing on the HSA plan. There's some minor increases in terms of what both an individual can contribute on a tax-free basis toward their HSA, and then also family. So you'll see respectively what those amounts are: $3,550 for individual, going up from $3,500 in 2019, and then the family can contribute up to $7,100 on a tax-free basis for that account annually. That's up from $7,000 in 2019. So next, I want to talk about, we've talked about this historically, kind of the comparison from a benchmarking perspective to the core cities. So we take a survey from Overland Park, Olathe, Lenexa, and Leawood, and we kind of compare that against the plan designs and costs that Shawnee offers. So historically, from a plan design perspective, as well as from an employee contribution perspective, I think this has been an important consideration, as I think it's important that related to the staff that they remain competitive in these areas. As you go down through this, and I won't walk through this entirely, but just a couple of points here. I think overall, as you kind of skim through, you'll see that, as I mentioned earlier, we're not proposing any real notable plan design changes by moving to Blue Cross for 2020-21. For the PPO plan on the left-hand side of page 13, you'll see that the deductible remaining at $500 for individual coverage, and the out-of-pocket maximum at $1,500 for individual coverage. The deductible is in line compared to Leawood. It's very similar. Obviously, it's the same. And then with Overland Park and Latham, Lenexa, just a little bit more competitive there. The next piece, the co-insurance row through there, you'll see that after employees meet their deductible of $500, say for an individual coverage, they pay 10% of the cost up to the out-of-pocket maximum. So they're going to pay 10% up to row 4 there, the $1,500 out-of-pocket maximum. In all of those instances, row 3, 4, and 5, you'll see that the PPO plan stacks up really well against the other core cities. And as you go on down through the analysis, some of the more maybe less notable items, very important items in terms of from an employee perspective, but less impact from an overall premium standpoint or the development of the premium. Row 6, 7, 8, 9, and down into the pharmacy, you'll see that again stacks up very competitively. But on the right-hand side of the slide, again, page 13, you'll see the HDHP or HSA comparison. The deductible is a little bit on the high side, but the out-of-pocket maximum we feel is very competitive. So essentially an employee has to meet in 2020-21 that $2,800 deductible, and then they have 100% coverage in that plan thereafter. So that's a very competitive plan as we look across the board in terms of maxing the overall liability from an employee's perspective. And then down at the bottom right-hand corner of page 13, you'll see that contribution that I spoke about earlier that the city makes toward these HSAs that the employees, should they elect that plan. And so again, kind of comparatively across the board, you'll see OP, Olathe, Lenexa, Leewood. It varies, but we feel again, Shawnee is kind of right there in the middle there between, say, Lenexa and Overland Park, even Olathe. The next slide is the comparison from a employee contribution perspective. So this is the area where historically Shawnee has been very, very competitive from a contribution standpoint. I'm going to hone you in from a percentage perspective on rows 16, 17. Again, I'm on page 14. I spoke about this earlier, but you'll see that we're proposing that the employee-only contribution rate go from 4.1% to 7.1%. And this is really in line with the strategy we implemented a couple of years ago as far as trying to increase that percentage incrementally over time. Last year, because we had a rate decrease, we did not make that change. Over this year, we are adjusting it in order to try to keep some costs in line overall. I think I'll point out, too, I think, part of our discussions with the staff, obviously we have the lever, if you will, to decrease premiums by increasing deductibles or out-of-pocket maximums. In my opinion, we sort of left that for possibly down the road. And the changes that we're making this year are really more so focused from a contribution perspective. So as you think about levers you can pull to reduce overall costs, those are the two primary ones, the employee contribution strategy and then plan design changes. So in this instance, like I said, we're really focusing on the overall cost sharing from a percentage perspective as far as the employee contributions are concerned. So with that, again, the overall recommendation is to move to the Blue Cross Blue Shield proposal effective 7/1/2020. Within the offer that Blue Cross Blue Shield has provided, there is a narrow network plan design offer that we are planning to roll out. And so this would essentially create two more options for the employees, one under the PPO plan and one under the HSA plan. The plan designs themselves would be exactly the same between the broad and the narrow network, but the narrow network does provide some cost savings. So if employees can choose to go into that particular plan design, the premiums, there would be a premium savings associated with that. The challenge is predicting exactly who and how many individuals will go into that plan. So the projections that we provided throughout the presentation were really just based on the broad network and employees choosing the broad network. But undoubtedly, we will see some migration to the Blue Select Plus network, and we should realize some savings as a result of that as well. You'll see the rates here again, as I discussed earlier, talking about increasing the wellness rates on both wellness and non-wellness perspective from the $24 for single to $48 for single, from the $176 for employee plus one to the $214, and the family rate from $246 to $298. Those are employee contribution rates on a monthly basis. And then lastly, page 17, again, we're recommending going ahead and renewing and accepting the offers from Shawnee Vision, Delta Dental of Kansas, and implementing the enhancements through the Delta plan, and then also the basic life and short-term disability renewals through Cigna. So that's my portion of the presentation. I will open it up for questions.
Yeah, thanks. Before we go through that, before we open this up to discussion here real quick, the recommended action is to consider forwarding the medical plans from Blue Cross Blue Shield, the dental proposal from Delta Dental of Kansas, the vision proposal from Surancy, the short-term disability plan from Cigna, setting the city's monthly contribution rates as shown in the packet, continuing the agreement with Cigna for life and accidental death and dismemberment coverage, and continuing to engage in a relationship with Surancy Vision and MetLife for voluntary legal insurance to the governing body for approval. So with that being said, Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you. I am really concerned that our employees are looking at a nearly 25% premium increase for the coming year. And I want to thank you very much for sharing the rate comparisons with the other local cities. But one of the questions that I have, and this is probably more of a Liz question, is do we have data about whether our employee salaries are competitive compared to our sister cities in Johnson County? If, for instance, we were in the 30th percentile for our compensation overall, then this 25% increase will have a bigger impact on our staff, and I want to make sure that we understand this in that kind of a context.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Every 3 years, we do a complete comprehensive benefit and salary study. We look regionally as well as locally to find out how our salaries do compare. And when we do have to make any type of adjustments, we make sure that that happens. We're scheduled to do another one of those studies in 2022. And I'm confident in saying that we're in line with what we have to offer. We get our merit increase data from World at Work, which is a national company that provides data to organizations to ensure that trends in merit increases are consistent to keep us where we need to be in order to be a competitive employer of choice.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa, if you're done, Eric, go ahead. Hey, Eric, I still have you on mute. Will you go ahead and unmute? There you go.
Okay. I had a couple comments. The first one was in contrast to Lisa's comments. I was pretty delighted that the staff is going to help the city out a little bit here by absorbing some of this increase. It's a pretty substantial increase, and I think I was thrilled the fact that it's just 3%. I don't know, it's 25%. Kind of sounds big, but if you look at the cost of the premium themselves, it's a 3% increase over what they've been paying in the past. Because actually, it was last year. Family, for example, was paying 14.55%, and this will result in it being 17.72%, which is right around 3%. The single person was at 4.27 last year, and they're at 7.59 this year. So those are, I think, pretty reasonable raises, especially in light of the fact that it's a pretty substantial increase overall that the city's picking up on their end. The other thing I thought was really good about this, I like going to Blue Cross Blue Shield because I think that really is kind of a homegrown thing in a way, because now that we have Spira Care over at Staggs Creek, this is going to be accessible to all these employees now that we'll be under Blue Cross Blue Shield. And that seems to be a really, really good service over there, and that would keep some of the dollars there in the city of Shawnee. So I think it works out well as far as that goes also. That was my comments.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Tammy, go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Mike. I guess one question I have, when we talked about increasing claims over the course of last year, is that due to were there increasing number of employees or same number of employees, but just the claims themselves?
Yeah, pretty similar number of employees overall. If you go back to, well, I don't know if you can do that. I apologize. I'm going to go back to slide 2. But your average number of employees for 2018-19 was 338 on the plan. This year it's been 341. So we've seen the membership go up from 891 to 902. So really minimal. I think it's just higher utilization and propensity for large claims in these last several months.
Right. I think another statement, just that I have observation, is the amount that employees are paying for health insurance is extremely low. I know myself, as well as my family members that have insurance through their employers. What our employees are paying on a monthly basis is what we pay every other week. So this is a big buy for the employees in Shawnee, and for the, if you go on the website and you look at it, annual compensation for employees, I think this makes Shawnee a very nice place to work when you look at numbers like this for cost of health insurance.
All right, thank you, Tammy. Kurt, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got one clarifying question and then a comment, I guess for Liz and Reggie. Just to clarify, so Lisa mentioned a 25% increase to employees. I did read it as a 3% increase overall. What are you suggesting that the increase is for the average employee?
Yeah, so from a dollars perspective, the percent that they're picking up in terms of percent of premium, that's that going from 4% to 7%. That's that 3% overall increase from a cost sharing perspective. However, if you just break it down from a dollars and cents standpoint, and if the employee is paying $24 today, and they're going to pay $48 going forward, that's that larger percentage that we're referencing. So,
and if I could add to that, back in 2017, the governing body directed staff to try and increase premiums for the individual or single plan participant members to reflect a closer match to what the employee plus one and what the family members are paying. And so really, we're really trying to close that gap. So this was, I think, a pretty big step in doing that, particularly since last year we didn't have any increases in our contributions for the employees because of the decrease in our rate.
Yeah, so on the whole, I guess my thought is that obviously the goal is to balance providing our employees with a very competitive benefits package, and while ensuring that we're getting the best price possible for it. And it looks like city staff has done their due diligence in checking this out. And, I'm glad to see that we got a rate pass on the eye and the dental as well. I do hate to see the percent for employees go up, but I think that's par for the course in today's day and age. And like you said, it's in line with what we were trying to do, which is make it more closely matched, because that's the one area where it looks like our employees are still paying relatively less percentage than our neighboring cities. So I'm in support.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kurt. Jill?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback a little bit off of a couple of comments earlier. Thanks for the presentation. It does look like, obviously this is a ton of work, so thank you to Reggie and to Liz for all your work on that. I think our staff is fantastic in Shawnee. I was blown away just by, the whole orientation process and getting to know our city staff, and I really feel like we have top-notch staff. So, obviously we have to be good stewards of our money, but anything we can do, to keep us in line and to keep Shawnee, an attractive place to work, is great. And I also wanted to just give a shout out to our staff for the wellness program and the efforts that they've been making on that front. I know we've gotten some accolades on that, so I think that is a great thing. And I think that if we make these
employee contribution changes this year. Again, it is kind of par for the course that these premiums go up, but I think small steps each year are good, whether that's in, an employee contribution amount this year and potentially a plan design, in the future that we have to look at. But I just thank you for the work that was put into this.
Thank you, Jill. I would also like to put a shout out. Kim Daywald heads up our wellness program, and I believe she's put together a benchmark program, and she works real closely with our wellness coordinator. And one of the reasons that I think we are able to keep our costs so low is because of that program.
All right, Jill, if you're done, Lindsay, I see you got your hand up there too. Go ahead.
All right. I had a couple of comments and then a couple of questions as well. I wanted to say I'm really glad to see that year after year we continue to participate in that wellness program and know that the staff is doing their part there. I'm also glad to see that when looking at the ways we can save money, we did not choose the option that would reduce their benefits or made it, harder for them to get the health care they need. I think that was a really good choice. I think we need to, continue to be competitive, and those charts comparing us with the core cities show that. And, especially considering right now, I think this is a great time to be talking about healthcare and figuring out those plans with the fact that we have first responders out there taking care of folks in our city. I think it's important that we're also making sure they have access to healthcare. So glad to see that. The two questions I have, number one, when we're referring to the percentage increase, if I'm an average employee on the average plan, how much more are we talking per month? I know we're comparing different percentages, and sorry if I missed that in the chart. Is it $100 more, 25?
So if you are an employee, you're electing the PPO plan, which the vast majority of your population elects today, and really it doesn't matter if you're in the HSA or the PPO plan. You're going to go from $24 a month today to $48 a month next year, which would be a $24 a month increase.
Okay.
If you carry one dependent, your rates are going to go up $38 a month, and if you carry family coverage, they'd go up $50 a month. Now, there's some opportunities to save, however, if they do elect to go into that narrow network offering that we talked about earlier. So that just gives the employee some options.
Awesome. And then Liz, before when you answered Lisa's question about us being in line with other cities as far as pay, I assume that means we're right at 50% in the median as far as our salaries comparing.
Well, we try and follow the policy statement that the governing body put together about 5 or 6 years ago that talked about being an employer of choice and compensating employees adequately. So we take a look at each position. We try and be right at what's called market level, so right at what an average employer would pay, for example, a police officer or a public works person. We really do focus on, though, our 4 core cities, Olathe, Leawood, Lenexa, and Overland Park, because those are our competitors, and those are all cities of the first class as well. And, we use those cities, you could see them up there today, with wanting to make sure that we're competitive with benefits as well as compensation. And, if each year, if there is a one-off position or where we're trying to recruit for a position and we can't seem to fill it, and even before it's posted, we take a look at what the market is paying to be sure that we're paying adequately, fairly, and part of the whole compensation package is the benefits. So though the salary is there, we've got these great medical, dental, vision plans. We have our parental leave. We just try and have a comprehensive package for our employees.
That's perfect. Thank you, Liz.
Okay, I don't see any more raised hands on the council. So, Stephen, will you please check and see if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment?
There is not.
Okay. I will now accept a motion if I see a raised hand. Eric?
Yes, I was going to make a motion to forward this package as presented in our packets to the council for consideration.
Okay, and then, Matt, I see your hands up. Would you like to second?
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Just for the listening audience, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call, just to make sure we have this on the record. So, Tammy?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Lisa?
Aye.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Jill?
Yes.
And I will vote aye also. So motion passes. We will now go on to the third item to discuss green streets. A street section committee composed of community development, public works, and city manager's office staff has developed alternatives to the comprehensive plan's requirement for street classifications in rural and low-density areas of the city to include green street concepts. Assistant City Manager Guard and others will make a presentation. All right, go ahead.
All right, everyone, can you see my screen?
No.
No.
It was up there before. It was up there before the medical screen showed up.
I see Eric. I see it.
Now?
There she is. I see it.
All right. All right, guys, and thank you, Dr. Kimling. Tonight, myself and Senior Development Engineer Reagan Long from our Community Development Department will present this concept that we're hoping the governing body in the future will adopt into our comprehensive plan. It's a relatively new concept, definitely in Shawnee, but a number of our local cities and peer cities across the metro use this concept. I think Reagan will even talk about in a bit how KDOT has just recently adopted this concept for even their higher traveled and higher density areas. So I hope that it's something that the governing body wants to include with the comprehensive plan update. And while we are going to be doing a full comprehensive plan update, hopefully later this year, if not then next year, staff continually tries to evaluate where we can make updates and changes in-house rather than having to bring a consultant in. And so that started last year when you all heard a presentation from Community Development regarding the downtown town square district that was added to the comprehensive plan, and this would just be an update to our street classifications. And Reagan will talk a little bit about that in a little bit. So with that, as Dr. Kimling stated, an internal committee was formed with myself, a number of individuals from Community Development Department, and a number of individuals from the Public Works Department. We're all involved in creating this and how it would apply to the city. Some objectives that we're going to cover tonight are we're going to identify those opportunities within our comprehensive plan and how we can promote this in more rural areas of our city. Many times when a developer is looking for an area to select for their development, site infrastructure is a big part of that, and as easy as we can make it on the developer to start and create those developments, especially in our more rural areas, we hope obviously to do so. So tonight, myself and Reagan are going to cover what street improvements, what these are going to look like, what we currently require the developers to do, and then how that would change if we did implement this Green Street kind of concept. And then also look at our comprehensive plan tools and how those would potentially change with this concept as well. And then also provide you real-life examples, not only of how other cities are utilizing this concept, but how we could do it here in Shawnee with actual developments that are planning to come forward here in the future. And then we're going to dive into staff's recommendations for moving forward with this update to the comprehensive plan. And with that, I will turn it over to Reagan.
Can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
All right. Hi, I'm Reagan. I'm the Senior Development Engineer at the city. So just kind of kicking off, Objective 1, we kind of want to go over what our current street improvement requirements would be on a new development. Currently in Shawnee, if you were to develop a project, you would have to do full street improvements for half the street. So that means curb and gutter, an enclosed storm system, sidewalks, streetlights, and then a minimum pavement width of 22 feet. So we look at that and then compare it to what other cities do. Our core cities don't require those same improvements. For instance, in Overland Park, they do a minimum pavement width of just 24 feet. They don't do a curb and gutter, and they don't do a storm system. Same thing in Olathe, they do a minimum pavement width. And so they avoid the curb and gutter and the storm system, which is a cost savings to developers. Another issue with the streets is when you have to put a street in, you have to get the right-of-way. And if you develop, either all the right-of-way comes from your own project, which could be 60 feet up to 100 feet, depending on the street classification, or you have to go to other neighbors and try to negotiate their right-of-way. Because in private development, the city does not participate in right-of-way negotiations. And so that can be tricky for developers to get the right-of-way they need. So when we do these street improvements, it can be cost prohibitive because those street improvements cost a lot of money, especially when you start putting in concrete curbs and storm systems. And then the other issue we find is we put in these streets, and so the pictures to your right will show Preserve at Clear Creek, and that's Clear Road. And so we built this as a complete street, but right now that road doesn't go anywhere, so we have road close signs up. So we're building a road that we're not going to drive on, and so there's maintenance there, but it's not getting any use. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is putting in streets that meet the need that we have for traffic counts and not exceed our current needs. So when developers come in, we kind of have tools that we have them look at. And this kind of goes over our zoning map, our land use guide, and then Caitlin, you go to the next one. Here's our zoning map, and then click down one more, Caitlin. This is our 2020 snapshot. Go up one more. So this is our 2020 snapshot of Shawnee. This is what it currently looks like. We have ag land, especially out west. There's a lot of undeveloped areas. Most of your east side of Shawnee is developed, and you can see that in the yellow with the residential and the pinks with the commercial. But the western portions still have a lot of undeveloped land. So this is what Shawnee looks like right now based on land use. And then go to the next one. This is our land use guide, and this is our complete build-out. This is what Shawnee will look like maybe in 2060, maybe in 2070. But when Shawnee is completely built out, this is how it will look. And it's a lot more balanced, where there's a lot more development out in western parts of Shawnee. And then click down. So this is complete build-out. And this is our circulation plan. And what you're going to see is, if you look at Clare Road, and I'll talk about Clare a lot tonight, just because it's kind of the example road we're using. When you look at Clare, it's blue, which means it's a minor arterial. If you look at Monticello, Woodland, Blackman, Quivira, they're all minor arterials. So based on our circulation plan, if a developer came in, they would have to build Clare to the same standard as Woodland, based on just our circulation plan, which doesn't necessarily make sense because the traffic counts and traffic volumes out there are a lot lower just because there's no density out there currently. And so that's where the green street concept kind of came in, is why are we building roads for high traffic counts when the traffic isn't there yet? Maybe build a road that's needed based on current use, current traffic needs, and delay improvements that cost money and cost long-term maintenance costs until there's actually a volume that justifies that type of street section. And then you can go ahead and click down. The other thing we look at when we do developments are our geographic points of interest. So, for instance, our street network system, that's some highways and some city, our bodies of water, the Kansas River, the creeks, because those are basically where you have to put bridges in. So those are obstacles when you're trying to build roads, because bridges are very expensive to construct. County boundary, we border a county on the north, which is unique in Johnson County, for like Overland Park and some others don't have that county boundary like we have. We have 2 school districts, which means even though we have the Kansas River, a lot of our western population still travels west because there's kids will go to high school in DeSoto or middle school at Mill Valley. So the school districts do pull people west past the Kansas River for school. We have the landfill in Shawnee Mission Park, which, while our great amenities, the park's a great amenity in Shawnee, it does create a big buffer of green space. And then topography. We always say we're blessed with gorgeous views in Shawnee, but that's also at a development cost, because topography means money to develop. There's usually rock, there's usually a lot of grading work, so it costs money to develop in these areas. But out of all these, probably the biggest detriment to development is the Kansas River. because that basically is like a great wall that we're never going to go further west because the cost to build a bridge to go further west exceeds the benefit of it. So the Kansas River really basically puts it when we look at a comprehensive plan that all of our uses out west are more residential in nature just because the commercial use is not viable out in western Shawnee based on the population that would surround it. So looking at a current example, I pulled up Village of Clear Creek. I've worked for the city for about 12 years. Village of Clear Creek started before I came to the city in 07, 08 when the housing market kind of had its dip. It kind of sat stagnant. So there's a preliminary plat on this piece of land. It's Shawnee Mission Parkway transitions to 67th Street, and you can follow Caitlin's mouse going across there. And then Clear Road is the eastern boundary. And then it also borders Greens of Chapel Creek on the east side. So this is a great piece of residential property, but it hasn't developed in 12 years. Even with the housing market turning around, it's not developed. And we'll kind of talk about what are some of the things that have prohibited it from being a developable piece of property. So the tools we talk about, we can kind of apply them now. What you're seeing here, this is our current zoning map. It's zoned as residential and ag, which so the zoning meets the land use guide. You turn down. You can see here there's a little pocket of commercial. This is probably the only piece of commercial that's west of Gleason, just because, again, commercial is not very feasible or viable in western Shawnee just based on access and surrounding densities and uses. You can go to the next one. And then this is the floodplain shown. So while what you'll see is that land starts getting eaten up because you have to put floodplain in there. So while the land looks large, it starts getting eaten up, and those are properties where you can't put lots and you can't generate revenue off of it for the developer. And then you start factoring in streams, and anytime there's a stream, the city either applies a stream corridor, which could be anywhere from 80 feet to over 120 feet, depending on the watershed going to it. Or if they don't do a stream corridor, then they have to pipe it across. And storm piping is very expensive. Half the time, road cost, the storm pipe is not much less than the road cost itself. And then what you're seeing now is a circulation plan. And so this also shows that you have 67th Street on the north side, so the developer will have to dedicate right-of-way for a future 67th Street. And then they're also going to have to dedicate right-of-way for Claire, but they're also going to have to construct Claire. And right now, we affectionately call it the Goat Pass, but Claire Road out there is a pretty narrow road for the classification that it has. So again, for this piece of property, when you start factoring in the floodplain, as you see here, the topography, it's a gorgeous piece of land that will have great walkout lots, but there's a lot of topography. So it's expensive to develop because there'll be rocks they have to develop, and they'll have to move a lot of dirt. And then to also put the cost of full improvements for Clear Road on this one small piece of property, it just can't burn that entire cost. Like it's not financially viable for a developer to develop it. So what we decided as a committee is we need what we call an interim street plan, where the circulation plan is what the road needs to be maybe in 50 years, but we need what the road needs to be now based on the current traffic volumes. And the pictures you see, the picture on the right, the top picture, is actually Clear Road in its current state. This is the road that kids drive to get to high school, that parents drive to get their kids to middle school, that people get to work every day. It doesn't meet any street standard we have. But for 12 years, that's been the road because to get a full improved road, like the road beneath it, that's woodland. So Clear Road would look like woodland when it's built, if it was built to our current standards. We need a medium, and that's where the idea of green streets came into play. Let's flip into the next one. So there's kind of two ways of thinking. One is how, in the picture on the left is Lenexa. Lenexa does a lot of, if we build it, they will come. So that's Prairie Star Parkway, and they've built it, and they're waiting for development to come to it. That works great as a city if you have a lot of money, or you can generate and pull together large benefit districts. In Shawnee, that's not as feasible. On the right side is Overland Park. This is down around 159th and Schweitzer. This is where they basically have widened the roads out and made them safe. There's still ditch section. They've acquired the right-of-way they need. And they kind of have a philosophy is we'll develop it and get the density and the traffic volume, and we will improve the road once the traffic volumes dictate the need for a more substantial street section. So our action was, as a city, to develop a green street section. And then you go to the next one, Caitlin. So what is a green street? A lot of times people think of green streets and they think of bioretention cells, they think of rain gardens, they think of urban areas, but that's not necessarily true. And on the left, and I won't read through them, but that's how ASCE and then the Federal Highway Administration defines green streets. And the things we like, and as a committee, we were trying to really look for when we were developing green street sections, were maintainable materials, sensitive engineering, sustainable maintenance, because maintenance is a huge issue for Shawnee. We want to make sure what we build we can afford to maintain in the future. And then livability for residents. I'm actually a Western Shawnee resident. I love our walkability. We want to make sure these streets are livable for our residents as well. So click the next. So I'm really big on, my kids play soccer, so I'm all over Johnson County, and I'm really big on driving and getting the feel of something. And so as a staff, the committee, plus a lot of our public works engineers, our planners, a lot of us went on a city tour. We loaded up and spent a day driving these other streets to see what felt right when you drove them, what we liked, what we didn't like. So as we developed our green street sections, we had firsthand knowledge of what we felt would work. And so here's some examples of the streets we drove that day. This is at 159th and Schweitzer. This is an area in Overland Park, and Caitlin clicked on one more. A lot of times I hear from people, there's kind of a negative connotation with ditch section streets, and I think sometimes maybe that's valid, but what you're going to see is what we're hoping to accomplish is have residential enclaves. So residential developments that have your complete streets with your curb and gutter, your enclosed storm system, your sidewalks, then connecting to more of your conduit streets, your main streets that connect you to go north, south, east, or west. And that's viable in Shawnee because in Western Shawnee, most people are going to be moving east, north and south, but east to get to work, to get to play, to get to school, to get to places of worship, business, entertainment. So it's providing a needed conduit that works in a safe street, and it's improving the streets we need to get to the places we got to go. But it also shows that these neighborhoods, they're affluent neighborhoods, and people are still developing and choosing to live off of these ditch section streets, if you want to call them that. But again, we say green streets because that's the value in them is treating the stormwater in the ditches. You go to the next. Another one is I hear people get concerned when you have traffic counts that are going to be really high traffic counts at certain times of day and how that works. And this is an example. This is Blue Valley Southwest High School. It's one of the premier Blue Valley schools, a 6A school. And you'll see that it's a green street concept. And when needed, they've added turn lanes to handle the higher volumes during the peak hours. So still it's improved, they're graded, they're nice maintained, ditches on each side. The one thing that did surprise us as staff is the lack of sidewalks. There's no sidewalks on this, and there's no street lights. And so that's something we took into account when developing our own street section we'll talk about later. We also wanted to look at industrial uses and how that would work when you have, larger trucks. This is 167th Street in Lone Elm. This is in Olathe. I'm down here frequent. There's a soccer field down there. So during the week, it functions because there's an industrial park. One thing as staff we noticed is there's gravel shoulders, and that's something that we chose that we felt that would be a maintenance issue. When trucks turned and they got off the asphalt, there was rutting. So that's something we took note of. But on the weekends, there's a very high-use soccer complex. So again, these streets see nonstop use during the week and then high-intensity uses on the weekend as well, with their sports complex being just south of it. And then the last one we went to tour was 159th Street in Laughman. This is also in Olathe. Heritage Park is right there. You'll see just based on the street views, the traffic counts on these are high. And later in the presentation, we'll talk about the traffic counts on Clare and Mize, but you'll see how high these traffic counts are. And so these are green streets with high traffic volumes, and they're still running and working at a high level of service without high accidents, without, any issues. And so after touring the city, we all came back and met as a group and kind of wrote down and talked about what we liked during the tour, what we didn't like, what we'd want to see in Shawnee. And Caitlin, there we go. So this is Laughman Road. This is kind of our ideal picture of what a green street in Shawnee would look like, what we would want Clare Road to look like. I'm going to click down one more. You'll see the trail. Some of our key selection points is it had to work for low-density residential and future development. So it had to support what was out there now, but support future growth. We wanted to see 4-foot shoulders, asphalt shoulders. We felt that this provided a greater comfort level when you drove. It also kind of works as a dual-purpose bike lane, and a lot of bikers out in Western Shawnee, this also provides a 4-foot shoulder that they could also bike in. We like the idea of the pavement markings. It has that reflective ability at nighttime, so it's a safer drive. Well, right now, I think most of our streets out there, like Claire and Mize, aren't striped. We would stripe them so you get that reflection at night for a safer, when you travel, it'd be a little safer. Manicured edges and maintained ditches. Again, all of this, as it developed, the HOA would be responsible for maintaining those ditches. That would be written into the covenants and also recorded with the plat. The obligation of the HOA adjacent to that ditch section to maintain it and make sure it was manicured at all times and it wasn't weedy or overgrown. And then we would also add street lights just as another safety precaution. There's also the desire we've talked, we want to add a multi-use trail. You'll see it. A shared use path, that'd be a 10-foot trail. We would locate it on just one side of the road. But have a trail so it has more of a larger use than 2 sidewalks, which we currently require. And then other questions we have just from an engineering standpoint, how does that transition from a curb transition down to a ditch section road? And there's a couple images just so you can visually kind of see how the street would transition from curbs to ditch section. And again, it's a pretty seamless, pretty smooth transition. The biggest thing too we do is we would still require, even with going with the Green Street concept, we would basically still acquire the adequate right-of-way for a complete street if the street ever needed to be widened out to a minor arterial. So if we did a Green Street and it needed to be widened to a 3-lane, we'd have the adequate right-of-way. The utilities would be placed outside of the right-of-way in any future street improvement, so they would not have to be relocated at a future cost. All grading and site distance would be corrected now. So in some locations where we have really steep grades that exceed our street standards, a really hard site distance location because of hills, those would be corrected now too to provide a safer street. And this again just kind of shows that transition point. So our second action is we want the considerations for development. So we decided on the Green Street we liked, and did that Green Street meet our development considerations? Does it provide connectivity? And does it make development costs more feasible? So here in a few slides, we'll talk about a cost analysis that our public works staff did. Stormwater quality benefits are there with the ditch sections. You're going to see that because it's going to cool the temperature of the water coming off the road. It will basically cool down in the ditch versus being piped. It's a slower way of the water being routed to the streams. And then we also want to construct the roads for realistic traffic volumes. And this is something where Caitlin talked about KDOT. Caitlin and I both had the opportunity recently to listen to the Secretary of Transportation speak. And we basically were kind of, I guess, it was interesting to hear because they're kind of doing the same thing in KDOT, where they're building highways in western Kansas, where they're still keeping 2-lane highways, but they're widening out and doing passing lanes. Instead of putting in 4-lane highways, they're finding ways to save costs and build the roads you need to provide other options, other alternatives for safety. And this is something even KDOT has kind of developed this new program they're implementing, where instead of building, the actual secretary said the Cadillac of roads, we said the Platinum road. She said the road that's needed, not the Cadillac. And we kind of said Platinum and Gold, but it kind of played off the presentation we'd already prepared. And the big thing is, and we'll talk cost in a second, it lowers the long-term maintenance cost, and there's no negative impact to public safety or our snow removal operations, and then actually enhances circulation because we're hoping this spurs development, which helps us get some of the streets that we lack. Like 75th Street doesn't have any connection right now. Claire's missing connection points. 67th Street's missing a connection. Here's traffic volumes Kevin Manning, our transportation manager, put together. You can kind of see that our current existing minor arterials that are equivalent to Claire Road, the traffic counts are 14 to 17,000 vehicles per day. Claire Road itself, along with Mize and some of the others out there, are 500, 1,000 to about 3,000 cars a day. So just looking at traffic counts, the need for a minor arterial for Claire right now, based on traffic counts alone, is not justified. It would be overbuilding a road based on the current demand. Here's some of the proposed green streets. This is kind of a first flush by city staff. There's green industrial streets, green arterials, and green collectors, and this is kind of our breakout based on looking at our comprehensive plan adjacent land uses, how we see traffic moving looking at how the streets, some of these are constructed in Lenexa, and making sure we tie in with a similar type of infrastructure. And here's our cost analysis. Lauren Snyder, our city engineer, did a great cost analysis for us. You're going to see we made many assumptions. This is mainly more about cut and fill, storm size. We kind of had to pick a general pipe size of like 30 inches and a very generic cut and fill balance. So the details are very there, but when you build a road, there's so many factors, whether you hit rock. So that's where that kind of came in right away acquisition. So we did a very general assumption for both cost analysis. And what they came and found out was if you were to build 1 mile of our current street section, which is a 3-lane with bike trails, so basically picture woodland, it'd be about $5.5 million. But if you were to build the Green Street section, and so picture that picture, the image that we showed you, that'd be about $3.4 million. So there's about a $2 million savings per mile of street construction. We also did maintenance costs, because that's very important. 1 mile over 10 years would be about $45,000 if we were to do the woodland type cross section. And then one mile over Green Street is $25,000. And really by going to the Green Street, we're eliminating the center turn lane. We're eliminating curb and gutter and storm system repairs. We're saving on snow plowing. That was factored into maintenance because instead of plowing 3 lanes, we're plowing 2 lanes. So all that stuff was factored into the maintenance cost. And then our final was implementation. We actually just kind of this last year had a chance to implement this before the Green Street, and this also is kind of what helped initiate some of these conversations. Heartland Logistics Center, which you're all familiar with, it's the big industrial development located on 43rd Street. It's in a floodplain. There's no engineering method to pipe the water from 43rd Street to the Kansas River. We would have had to get into pumping stormwater or other methods that just weren't feasible. And so we looked at other developments, the Intermodal and Gardner, Horizons up in the Northland, north of the river, and we looked at other options and what was available. And a Green Street made the most sense. So 43rd Street will sheet flow into the ditches on each side. Those ditches then will drain gravity into large infiltration basins located outside of the right-of-way within private lots. And then 100% of the stormwater generated off of 43rd Street will be infiltrated into these stormwater infiltration basins. Because of the soil types there that are sand, it allows for infiltration in this area. So it's a kind of unique engineering use of a Green Street that was practical and provides cost savings, but also provides the engineering and stormwater quality benefits that were needed for this project to be a success. And the other example is Beaver Farms. This is on 67th Street. If you go west of Gleason, the Greens of Chapel Creek 8th plat, where it finishes, Beaver Farms is just west of there. This is a very small project. This is actually a homestead of a family, and the parents have passed, and they chose to, they want to develop a little bit. So they would have to basically improve 67th Street from the Greens of Chapel Creek into that plat all the way to Clare, which isn't, again, it's not cost effective. There's no way to put in that street and support such a small development. And so we talked, and the options, the red box there kind of shows that if they only built the first 20 lots, and hopefully you can kind of see, if they only did the first main section of the 20 smaller lots, they'd only have to build 67th Street to right where the mouth is currently. We would never get that connection from that point west to Clare Road, where that red box is. And the family may choose to never develop that, because to develop that and only be able to sell off those 4 lots and keep the home house, you know, the homestead house that they want to keep in the pond, those 4 lots would be such a high cost that it would make no sense to ever develop those. And so we talked with the developer and the developer's engineer, and the agreement was that when they develop on the east side, so those first 20 lots, they will install 67th Street, construct 67th Street from where it currently stops. And if you go to the next slide, Caitlin, it kind of shows it. You can kind of see where 67th Street is improved and stops. They'll construct 67th Street from where it stops all the way west to Clare, but as a Green Street. So it'll be 26 feet of pavement. It will have ditch sections, but it will provide that much-needed connectivity from Shawnee Mission Parkway, which transitions into 67th Street, and then on to Clare Road. And then if you kind of look, Caitlin, can you circle where Village of Clear Creek is? When that eventually develops over there, that provides an amazing opportunity for connectivity from that future development up to 67th Street, onto the Parkway, and then onto K7. So this is stuff we're hoping to to accomplish by not, I would never say lessening their street standards, by being innovative with them and encouraging green streets and engineering concepts that apply stormwater quality benefits, lower long-term maintenance costs for the city, and it helps encourage developers and make some of our sites that are really tricky based on floodplain, lack of a street system, more developable for developers that are local and want to develop in Shawnee. Caitlin, you're still on mute, I think.
Sorry, guys, I just was talking. Thank you, Reagan. You did a great job. A lot more technical than I could have been. So if there are technical questions at the end, Reagan will hang on, and we can facilitate those questions towards her. But we brought this concept to the committee, to get your all's blessing before staff spent additional time engineering these Green Street sections. Hoping to move it forward through the Planning Commission and ultimately to the City Council for approval to be incorporated into our comprehensive plan. And as Reagan said, the goal of this concept is to develop an approach to promote development in our more rural areas, but also provide a safe and sustainable street section for that development, and also the connectivity and the amenities that our residents want and need. So with that concludes our presentation, and we are here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. So the recommended action is to consider forwarding the Green Streets concept to the governing body to consider adding it to the city's comprehensive plan. Matt, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So first and foremost, I want to thank staff for the research that went into this. I could stop on slide 25, the cost analysis, and say, we're done. The savings there is absolutely incredible. And it's, what we're showing there is a 10-year maintenance, and I can't help but extend that out to 20 to 30 years when we start dealing with stormwater issues. I think that maintenance number is going to jump significantly. Shifting those numbers even more towards the Green Street standards. Beyond the cost piece of all of this, I think that the concept is the perfect fit for the more rural parts of Shawnee out west. The pictures that staff has got up here are just phenomenal. I am 110% in support of this. This is just awesome. So thank you, staff, for great work.
All right, thank you, Matt. Lisa?
Yes, thank you very much for your work on this. I think that this is a very exciting concept. I live at 79th and Clare, right at the preserve at Clear Creek. And first of all, I am going to extend an invitation to the council to come over sometime, check out this part of the city. We are about as far southwest as you can go without being in Lenexa. And I can tell you one of the challenges that our residents in this neighborhood have, and really anybody that's living west of K7, is walkability. That very first slide in her presentation showed my neighborhood, and we are in a little bit of an island. And one of the things that you don't see here is just west of us, off of Mize Road, we have an elementary school. That elementary school is also very much on an island. There is no way for anybody to walk and or bike there. So as we are thinking about the green streets and implementing them, and because our future plan shows that this is going to be residential areas, we really need to keep in mind, how do we make them more walkable? How do we make sure that we're ensuring bike access? Because that is what people are clamoring for here. And right now, our roads cannot accommodate that. They are very narrow. They have deep ditches on either side. I see people biking all of the time, and I get a little bit of a heart attack because I know that we also have hills, and you lose visibility. And if they go over a hill, they might not know that there's a car there. So I think I can be very supportive of Green Streets, and I like the concept that you showed that had the 3-foot bike lane concept. And I think especially in Western Shawnee, especially Southwestern Shawnee, that is really what we need to be moving towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Go ahead, Kurt, you're up.
Yeah, just piggyback on what the other folks have said. Anything we can do to get streets like Mize and Claire widened faster is welcome, and get lighting on there and have a sidewalk or a path next to it. I think that's going to be really, really welcome. And I do hope that I hope they would stick with the recommendation that every one of these have a sidewalk or path on one side. And I think that's the intent, which I'm excited about. I have a question and then one last comment. So obviously this is to encourage the developers to go ahead and develop and help us create these. But would we proactively, I assume, also be having these on the CIP, and I assume that this would allow us to maybe speed up the number of years that some of these roads are going to be improved. And then I have one comment.
That's the intent. Sorry to interrupt you. That's the intent. While these aren't currently on the CIP, we do have estimates as to how much they would cost. We're going to have to revise them if this Green Street concept moves forward. Hopefully down. Luckily down. We'll revise them down in cost. But as far as projects on the capital improvement plan, that is absolutely something that's up to the governing body to put those projects on the plan. That's revised once a year during the budget process, and luckily that's starting here soon. So we'll absolutely have those conversations.
Okay, that's good. And I also wanted to say great job, Reagan, on the presentation, and Caitlin putting this together. Last thing, just again, real concern out here with some of these roads. They are pretty heavily traveled. We got a lot of young drivers on them and things like that, and older folks as well. And in the interim, I'll just throw it out there again, because I talked to somebody early on and I haven't gotten really a response, but we really need a striping, even if it's just down the middle on Mize, on Claire. When it's raining out there, you can't see where you're going hardly, and it's easy to fall off the side. And so I don't know if it's up to our architectural standards or what's required, but a simple striping, I know we've got the machine. I'd love to see something done in the interim that would help it be a little bit safer, but I'm very supportive of this green concept.
Caitlin, can I talk on that for 1 second?
Absolutely.
So, Kurt, I live west of K-17, so I'm very familiar with the streets, and I don't have kids driving yet, but I do understand the concern. And I've driven them with Kevin Manning, our transportation manager, a lot. Some of the problem is why we can't currently stripe them with the fog lines is they don't meet any minimum lane width that the city has, and so we would be trying to stripe a center line and then, lanes. There wouldn't be any, they wouldn't meet any minimum requirements that we currently have. So that's one of the issues, and we've talked about maybe just trying to put fog lines on no center line, or center line and no fog lines. So that's kind of one reason they never been striped, because some of them are so narrow, like portions of Claire. It's how do you stripe it? Because you stripe it less, it'd be more minimum width compared to our travel lane requirements, and it kind of gets a complicated problem we have.
So that's the first time I've heard that response, and I appreciate it. I mean, that makes sense. I hope you guys keep talking about it, because anything we could do out there in the interim. I don't know that it may be several years before a lot of these do get widened.
It's certainly versus stripe, but it's been widened out slightly. Some of our overlays, we've widened Claire with some of our overlays recently, so that's something maybe to revisit and see if some of those widths have widened out just enough now, but portions of Claire, it's so narrow you can't even stripe.
Okay, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Eric.
Okay, am I on?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make a couple comments. The first one was, when I printed this packet off and took a look at it, saw Shawnee Green Street section, I said, oh my God, here we go. So this is going to be expensive. And I was delighted as I got through reading it that it was just the opposite of that. This is a really great and innovative presentation. I'm just thrilled the staff took on this operation, and I guess without a whole lot of encouragement from anybody, you guys just did this, and I'm really, really excited about you doing it. It turned out very well. It looks like it's been well thought through and well put together, and it's the kind of thing that we really need, because we need to do some stuff out west, and it just, sometimes the cost just keeps us from going where we want to go. This may give us some other options, and I think the fact that this will take us into the next 20, 30 years, you would think, pretty well. And after that, we may have to actually do some additional improvements depending on the nature of the development and the increase in traffic and all those sorts of things. But this would be a really good interim solution, and I like that gold instead of platinum concept, because we can't always do platinum, even though we would like to. So anyway, just want to congratulate the staff on that. This is good work, and I support it 1,000%.
All right, thanks, Eric. Jill, go ahead.
My comment is super brief. I just thank you to staff for doing this. And Reagan, I loved your comment that we're not lessening our standards. We're just being innovative with them, which I completely agree with. I think this is great. So thank you.
All right, then Lindsay.
Well, I was going to say I'm 100% in support, but then Eric threw 1,000, so now I feel like an achiever. I wanted to say the part that I'm really most excited about is that stormwater piece, knowing that we have a less expensive way to deal with that stormwater, which comes up all of the time, especially in our budget conversations. The cost savings was amazing as well, so I am 1,001% in support.
Okay, and then Tammy?
Yeah, I just had number one, Reagan, and Caitlin, you did a great job. Thank you. When we talk about having the right-of-way for utilities, are the utilities going to be underground?
You want me to take that, Caitlin?
Go ahead.
Yes, the plan is that the utilities, there's certain instances that they can't, whether based on the classification of the utility. Transmission lines obviously can't go underground, and there's some other, and it's kind of more technical lingo than I even get into. Some classifications utilities can't go underground, but that would be what we would recommend as part of the comprehensive plan and what we currently do, that all utilities would go underground in a conduit system. That would be ideal, but there's going to be some instances that just won't work.
Okay, I understand. And I am an individual that lives on Woodland Road, and as you develop these green streets, which I love the look of them, I think they're great, but when you come out to Woodland, when it was widened and developed, it's done in such a way that it becomes an absolute raceway. And so as these things are developed and widened to whatever degree they end up being, in the long term, you have to think about the things that you don't anticipate. It's not uncommon to see cars racing down Woodland, one in the turn lane, one in the respective directional lane. I've seen 3 cars racing down Woodland in all 3 lanes in the same direction. So that's only because it's a straightaway. And it's a straightaway from right when you come around Mill Creek all the way up to 47th Street. Fortunately, we now have a stoplight. But those are just, as we approach these types of developments, I think it's important to say, oh, that's a nice straight street. But man, there's a lot that comes along with that nice straight street. And I know you guys will be mindful of all of those things. But living on Woodland, I would really encourage you to think about it, utilizing roundabouts in any way we can, just to slow people down, because it is it's a dangerous area.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, then Eric, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm back up again. I just wanted to kind of reach some sort of closure on this, however. On the one of the last pages here talks about summary. So all of us need to do a little bit of homework now, because there were a number of streets that were suggested to be on the in the group that we considered as green streets, and so I think it's incumbent upon us now as a council to take a look at that suggested list so that we're ready for the meeting we're going to have down the road here with the city council, and be prepared to provide the staff with our guidance as far as which streets we think should be incorporated into this. And just as a side comment, I was pretty satisfied with the list they'd already generated, but I think we all need to take a look at it and be ready to act on that in April or whenever this comes up again. Thanks.
Okay, I'll throw my own comments in here real quick too. And I agree with Matt. You kind of had me at slide 25 where the cost savings were so significant. I think that's a huge benefit to this concept. And so with that being said, I don't see any other, oh, wait, we got Matt. Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Mike, I apologize. I thought you were going to ask for a motion to be for the council. I got ahead of myself. I apologize.
I Okay, no, yeah, just 1 second here. Hey, Stephen, will you please check to see if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment?
There is not.
Okay. So I will then entertain a motion. Matt?
I move to advance this to general counsel.
All right. Eric, would you like to second? I have you on mute.
Eric, you're on mute.
I want a second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call one more time. Jill?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Eric?
Aye.
Matt?
Absolutely.
Tammy?
Yes.
And I'll vote aye as well, so motion passes. And so that concludes our agenda, and I will now accept the motion to adjourn. Eric, I see your hand up again.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Matt seconded. So with that being said, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Mike, under difficult circumstances.
You did great.
Yes, thanks, Mike.